Hello, everyone. I'm Dijon,
And I'm Aiara.
and welcome to the Mastercast, the podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see our channel grow, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. As usual, free Palestine. Not gonna lie, Twitter had me stressed the other day because just World
Mm.
War Three was trending, and I was like, what is happening? Why is World War
Right,
Three trending? And apparently, Iran bombed Israel, and I'm like, nobody should be getting bombed, as much as Israel kind
right.
of deserves it, but like there are innocent people there. Bombs just they only hurt civilians really. So it's like
Yeah.
there's just nothing good about bombing, no matter how bad. It's like when Japan got bombed. Yeah, Japan was doing a lot of really bad stuff back then that resulted in them getting bombed, but all the people who were hurt by the bombings were civilians. So
Right.
it's like we just gotta stop, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had me concerned in the middle of the night while I was trying to go to sleep. But yeah, what media have you been consuming lately?
um, Not much. Caught up on Dungeon Meshi. I'm about to start reading the manga again because the anime is catching up to where I am. I watched Talk to Me. That excuse me. I watched Talk to Me, that horror movie by A24. It was not good. I did not like it. It's kind of bad.
Yeah, it's by
And
Raka
I've been
Raka, the people who made a bunch of those
oh
a bunch of YouTube videos, mostly like action videos, but like Ronald McDonald beating people.
oh no wonder it was bad then. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know. I heard good things about
um
it. I don't know. It just didn't really interest me that much.
Yeah, I only watched it because I was in my girlfriend was watching it and I was in the same room. I was like, whatever, I'll pay attention to it slightly. And I didn't really enjoy it. She didn't either. And then I've been really into this like poker roguelike called Balatro lately. I've been enjoying that a lot. Probably playing it entirely too much, but other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, for me, I finished. I don't know if I mentioned it last time. I don't know why, but there was some stuff that I added in my notes this time around that I was like, this stuff feels like it's from the last episode, but I'm not sure. But I finished tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Did I mention that last time? I might have told you
Y-
like off
I
podcast, but
You said you were close to finishing it, but you didn't
yeah.
finish it completely.
But I finished it up and it was great. Um, was it on Thursday where like some donors came into our workplace and I had to tell them about my journey as a graphic designer and stuff. Randomly, one of them, because I was talking about game design, asked me like, have you read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow? And I was like, yes, I have. Actually, just finished reading it like a week ago. And I was thinking
Oh, look
about
at
it when
that.
we were talking about when we were talking to the people from ZeniMax because we met some
Hmm.
people very high up on the ladder of ZeniMax, the company that owns Bethesda and Bethesda
Yeah.
Studios and the studios that Arcade and what's the name of the studio that makes Doom? I can't remember right now. It's Software and Machine
Yeah.
Games. Like yeah, it was cool.
It was really cool.
And I was thinking of tomorrow when I was talking to him. And I
Hmm.
started to read This Is How You Lose Time War, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Uh,
Because it's like the premise is interesting, but I'm honestly not a huge fan of the way it's written.
that's
It's
real.
a little too poetic for my taste. I prefer my stories to be a little more direct when it comes to
Hmm.
just the most of the stuff. Like you can like be a little indirect with certain things and be a little poetic about some stuff, but like I feel like every sentence is them trying to write poetry, and I'm like, for me, when it comes to like sci-fi stuff, I like to understand what's happening
Right, that makes
because
sense.
sci-fi can already be confusing.
Right.
But I'll keep reading to see if anything changes. I'm only reading the preview right now. I haven't bought it or anything. Uh,
Mm.
Playing God of War. I took a break from Final Fantasy. I'll talk about that at the very end. And I was playing God of War, and I got back into Metal Gear Solid Five, and
Ooh,
I don't hate it as much as I did the first time I played it.
good.
I'm actually having a good time now. And kind of just enjoying it for what it is, and it's still my least favorite, and I don't think that'll change, but I at least won't say it's my least favorite and I hate it. I'll say I enjoyed it, but I still like it less than all the rest. I think that's
Real.
how my opinion is going to be whenever I get around to finishing it. Um, I have Daredevil here, but I don't know why. Oh, I was watching it. I was like, why is Daredevil here? I don't remember reading or watching anything. But yeah, I don't know. I was like in the middle of season three, and then I stopped. Uh, so I picked it back up and randomly and just watched the last episode I was on. Which is like, yeah, in the middle of season three, like the second episode that Electra shows up in. But yeah,
Mm.
It's a good show. I always recommend watching the like Netflix Daredevil, which is no longer on Netflix. It's on Disney Plus though.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Bear. I finished that, and it was great, just like the first season. It's really really good show. A lot of characters had some breakthroughs. It's a good show. This show has a way of making you feel tense, even when you're not
Oh
really
yeah.
supposed to, because some form of conflict, usually caused by everybody's stress, is always happening. So it makes you feel stressed and anxious. It's
Ye-
very uncomfortable sometimes to watch.
That's why I had to like take a break from watching it for a
Same.
long time because I would just get like I would be on edge even after the episode was over. I'd be like, ugh.
Like there was an episode where the black dude Marcus, he went to Denmark to like study like pastry making, or like, and
Mm.
it was like the most calming episode ever, but I was stressed the whole time for no reason. um I also finished Community right before they took it off Netflix.
Mm.
In the finale, Abed says that he's moving to LA um to be a PA on a Fox show about video game development. And then a few years later, the actor starred in Mythic Quest, an Apple TV Plus series about game dev. Coincidence? I think not. I, I assume Mythic Quest was probably like like not in production, but they were trying to get it made back then, and it just didn't happen until like 5 years later. But also watching Dungeon Meshi.
Mm.
I'm mad because I keep going back and forth between Delicious and Dungeon Meshi. I just read people call it Dungeon Meshi so many times that I end up calling it Dungeon Meshi. But in a couple episodes ago, Fallon and Marcel was acting a little fruity, and I was just like, "What's going on
Oh,
here?" In
you don't
that
even know the
in that
half
tub,
of
I
it.
was like, "What's happening here?" I felt like the fandom probably be going crazy over this. This is wild. And low key in like the last episode, what's the name of the brother?
Laios.
Laios and Marcel was having a little moment too. I was like, "What's up with this weird relationship between her and the siblings?" Why she got the hots for both of those siblings? Go take your bisexual self somewhere else. Leave these children alone.
Mm.
And Chilchuk keeps getting treated like a little kid. That man is 28.
Midlife
he's
crisis in the dungeon.
he's a grown man. It's so funny that he's older than the tallest person there.
It's silly.
But still watching X-Men, of course, and I'm on the Phoenix Saga currently in season 3, which is fun. I love that X-Men 97 is showing a lot of people what comics are truly like. The MCU has made a lot of people feel like it's all action comedy because that's the MCU's bread and butter, and they've barely strayed from that. But
Right.
comics are at their best when they're like soap operas, dramatic as hell for no reason. And so many adults who grew up on like the original X-Men animated series are watching this out of nostalgia, despite
Hmm.
probably a lot of them having not watched any cartoon in years, or maybe just watching cartoons with their kids or something. And now,
Right.
and they're learning that animation one isn't a medium for children, because this show, from what I've heard, because like I said, I'm trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible because I'm going through the original series and I'll get to it eventually. But like
Hmm.
the stuff that they're touching on is just like not necessarily stuff that's like for kid shows. Like it's a
Yeah.
bunch of adultery and a lot of racism, which is like not that kids should like see that in stuff that they watch so that they learn. But
Right.
like yeah, it's just touching on a lot of adult themes.
Yeah.
And like people are learning like yeah, animation isn't just for on children, and superheroes thrive in animation far more than anywhere else.
Hmm.
And also that the X-Men is the future of Marvel. Because the fact
Oh
that
yeah.
we went so long without them was already wild to begin with, and now that they're here, everything's better again. It feels like the Fantastic Four and X-Men are really about to start a renaissance for Marvel, and
I hope so.
it'll be fun because everything I see about, because they posted another poster for Fantastic Four
Hmm.
with that art style that they're showing, and it was the Human Torch flying. And something I noticed about the costume is that I don't know if you've seen like classic Fantastic Four art where like when Human Torch is on fire, he has this like these like lines going, like these kind of like pinstripes going down his body.
Hmm. Yeah, I've seen them.
And those pinstripes are designed like in the costumes that we saw. Like their costumes kind of have that sweater knit where it's like a stripes on it.
Hmm.
And because of that, when he's on fire, he has that classic look with the stripes going down his suit, and it looks really cool. And I didn't notice that design at first because one of the like lead character artist at Marvel posted on Instagram, and I was like, and people in the comments were pointing it out, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't notice that. That's a really cool design, because usually when they design these costumes, it's too much. It's over designed every time.
Right.
But now they're starting to be a little bit more comic accurate, be more fun with it instead of trying to make these grounded, realistic costumes. Like, they're superheroes. They don't need to be super realistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to animation. I sent you an ad from Coke and Marvel. But it has a amazing art style with the animated bits that does, the Spider-Verse thing with 3D models with 2D effects and textures. Right. And now I want an animated Avengers movie with this art style and this lineup. It's a wild lineup, but it's Captain America, Sam Wilson, Daredevil, Colossus, Black Widow, Wolverine, and Deadpool. It's a wild Avengers lineup, but that would be.
It sounds wild.
It was very fun little ad. Spider-Man freshman year. I've never talked to you about this, but Marvel is making a Spider-Man animated show, and I think initially, actually, you know what? I'm gonna see the concept art because I've never talked to you about this. I can't believe this.
I think I have heard of it though.
Because the concept art is amazing. You got to see Norman Osborn in this concept art.
Oh, is that the Spider-Man TV series where he's like black?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen this.
Oh my god, he finally has the waves, as he should.
Finally. Yeah.
He has to be a black man because he's got to have the waves.
No, for real.
But yeah, and like, there's a bunch of really just dope concept art for this show, and it's apparently still in development, and it's gonna be like officially revealed sometime this year, according to somebody who worked on the show. They posted on Instagram, and yeah, it feels like Marvel animation is just having a renaissance, and hopefully we just get so much more of this, of just Marvel cartoons on the level of like X-Men '97, and hopefully this is just as good as that. But they changed the name from Spider-Man Freshman Year, which I think it was meant to be kind of like the MCU tie-in thing, but now I think it's its own thing, and now it's called Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. Tales of the Empire. There was a trailer for the sequel series to Tales of the Jedi, and it will be focusing on Barriss Offee and Morgan Elsbeth, two characters with close ties to Ahsoka. So it will likely tie into the second season of her show whenever that happens. It's they're mostly like shorter episodes, so like 15 minutes usually, and there'll be 6 episodes coming out all at once on May the 4th.
Ha, nice.
Yeah. Barriss was a character that disappeared at some point in like one of the later seasons, but was a very interesting character that people have been wanting to see come back for a long time, and now she finally is. And Morgan Elsbeth was introduced in The Mandalorian. She was one of the main villains in the Ahsoka show, and Barriss's arc in the Clone Wars show was directly tied to Ahsoka. So this is 100% tying into the second season of that show. The first episode of Kaiju No. 8 premiered on Saturday, and it was good.
Ooh.
You should check it out. I'll never stop. What were you gonna say?
I just might.
Yeah, I'll never stop talking about how the main character is 32 years old.
I know. I saw your post about it on Twitter.
Yes, in this shonen ass anime show, he's 32, which is just something we don't see often. It's something we need so much more of, because when we get adult action anime and manga, it's usually dark and depressing, like Berserk or like Tokyo Ghoul.
Right.
Also, he's not a pervert. Thank God he's not a pervert. And so far in the manga, he still isn't. And
good.
He's, despite the fact, because he's those stories that Kaiju No. 8. I guess I should probably explain what it even is. It's a world where there are just giant monsters always coming and attacking people, and there's a kaiju like defense force across the planet in various different countries. And this one, of course, takes place in Japan. And the main character has tried to join the force several times but failed, and now he works for like a cleanup crew. And now they changed the cutoff age to 33, so he can try again now. And the story is basically him becoming like a member of the force, training alongside people in like their late teens and early 20s, and despite the fact that
Ooh.
he's like 32, and he's not a creep. He doesn't hit on any of the girls. None of the girls are really interested in him. And I'm like, there's no over sexualization. I'm like, what is this? This is a golden apple. We don't get this. This is just not a thing that happens. We don't get characters this old in shonen. We don't get a character this old that's not a pervert in shonen.
Right.
And we don't get literally not just no over sexualization, just a lack of sexualization in general, which I'm not necessarily saying there shouldn't be any. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not a fan of fan service. Everybody is to an extent. It's just it's done too much, and it's usually
in a really
over the top,
weird way,
and it's done to characters that are underage. And
like little girls.
Me and you have said it 1,000 times. It's fine. Just like if you're gonna do it, just do it to one of the adult characters.
Right.
And it's just a lot less weird. That just decreases the weird factor by so much, by a substantial amount. But yeah, this show's really good. Well, the manga is really good. The show so far it's good. I can't say it's really good yet. There's only one episode in, but I like the manga.
Right, but
there's a spinoff manga. It's barely a spinoff. It's more like kind of like giving backstory to certain things. That's been really fun. But yeah, this is what the future of shonen manga should be. We need more adults. The only like character like this we get is Goku, but even then he started off as a kid.
Right.
I've been watching Frieren, A Journey's End.
So, what do you think? I've been like on the fence about watching it.
So I actually started by reading it. The reason being is that I've been watching my favorite YouTube reaction channel, Flying Wave, watch it, and I was watching it to see if I'd be interested in it, and it just wasn't really catching my attention. But then something happened in episode 7 while I was watching the reaction. I was like, hold on, now I really want to watch this, but I really don't feel like rewatching the first 6 episodes,
right?
The first 7 episodes.
Real.
So instead, I read all of the material that covers the first 7 episodes in the manga. Then I picked it up at episode 8, and once I finish the first season, I'm gonna hop back into the manga and finish it because it is finished, the manga. So I'm gonna just finish it after I finish watching the show. It's so good. It's really good. You know, it's about an elf who lived a very long time, and despite the fact that they've lived hundreds of years, apparently they're still technically young. And it starts with the end of a 10-year journey that she had with a group of adventurers to like stop this evil demon king. But the real story takes place 80 years after that, where like half her friends are dead or dying, and like after they died, she started to realize that she wanted to learn more about them because she's been like apathetic all her life, and kind of just doesn't really respect the fleetingness of human life or like the life of every other creature beside her.
Right.
And it's a very fun show. It's very interesting. It's very, very lighthearted for the most part.
It sounds neat.
It's a nice light show to watch. Nice and chill.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm on episode 13 now. I think there's like 24 episodes in the first season. But yeah, moving on to comics. You been reading anything? Any comics, manga?
Not lately, honestly.
Yeah, World's Finest, number 24, spoiler, for people who are reading it and haven't read 24, Gog's plan succeeds, and Darkseid appears, and absolutely destroys everybody. And so to stop him, Magog kills Gog. Very confusing, but
yeah,
earning the ire of the heroes around him, because they're like, why did you just kill that man? There's another way. And it essentially is a prequel to the Kingdom Come storyline, and this is explaining essentially how he becomes Magog becomes the main antagonist of that story. It's very fun how they kind of retroactively did this. In the last Superman issue, Superman is back from the past, but finds Mr. Graft and Dr. Farm have gathered some of Lex's greatest enemies with a mission to wipe out Lex and everything he loves from Metropolis. In Action Comics, Bizarro used magic to transform Metropolis into a Bizarro version of itself to replace his destroyed world, and its effects are spreading across the planet. So Superman goes to Joker for help, since Bizarros are the opposite of their main universe counterparts. So Joker's
Mm.
a normal, sane person, kinda. He's still dressed like a clown, but Speed Force. I don't really like it.
No.
I like the characters of Kid Flash and Avery Ho, but not really the story or the writing of this in particular. I'll finish it since it's wrapping up soon, but like I hope a new writer hops on or something because I don't know, I'm just not feeling it. Also still reading the '80s Flash comics. I'm currently on like a Green Lantern crossover where they're fighting Gorilla Grodd. I started reading the Image Comics Transformers, and it's really good so far. But I forgot that they were making an interconnected world with G.I. Joe in both the comics and live action. And I remember telling you, like at the end of the last Transformers movie, like in the after credit scene, it was just randomly they were like, "Yeah, something you want to become a G.I. Joe," and I was like, "Wait, what? I forgot about this."
What?
And a lot of people want Transformers to cross over with Fast and Furious instead. But here's the thing, honestly, G.I. Joe always should have been what Fast and Furious is today. A goofy, high-octane action franchise. Because the Fast and Furious characters literally became super spies. And that's literally what G.I. Joe is. And it's wild that G.I. Joe didn't become that. They just kept dropping the ball with those 3 movies. 4 movies, actually. Let me tell you something. Snake Eyes was such a bad movie. I brought my friends to watch that movie. I was excited for that movie. Okay? I invited people to watch that movie with me in theaters. Okay? I had people take time out of their day to see this movie. And we sat in there watching it. And some of my friends were late. And I was like, thank God you were late. You don't have to suffer through nearly as much of this movie as we did. It was such a bad movie. I was so disappointed. But if they got the people who were working on the Fast and Furious movie, since they're about to end, to work on the G.I. Joe movies, they'd probably be really good. They, at the very least, would be extremely entertaining.
Yeah.
Which the first G.I. Joe movie was pretty fun. First G.I. Joe movie wasn't really bad at all. The second one, not so much.
Oh, yeah.
And Snake Eyes is always the best part of those movies. That's why I was excited for his movie. And then they ruined everything. They just did not understand that character at all. They hired a man who just talks a lot. And I'm like, what are you doing? His whole thing is that he doesn't talk. But Grim, in the latest issue of Grim Reaper, a priest and the Grim Reaper's daughter walk into a diner and tell war stories. Grim is very fun. It's hard to really describe it. You just gotta read it. It has great art by the artist's name is Flaviano, which is a very interesting name.
That's very silly.
But Alan Scott Green Lantern, in the latest issue, they kind of recontextualize Alan Scott's origin to fit in a lot of the new elements that they introduce in this story. But they do it so well without like completely retconning anything. They just slide it in real smooth, and I'm like, that's how you do it, rather than trying to go back and retcon an entire origin. Jay Garrick the Flash, Jay and his daughter Judy go to South America to get help from Dr. Midnight when Dr. Elemental and his forces attack and kidnap Judy. Last but not least, I've hopped back into the Walking Dead comic, and I'm desperately trying to remember everything that happened in the last 1,000 pages I read over like a year ago. Because I'm like, oh man, I'm starting and why am I forgetting the main character's name? But he's like just sitting in a car. I remember Carl, but I don't know why. I remember Carl because of the memes, but I can't remember his name for some reason. But he's sitting in a car with his son, and he's just depressed because a bunch of people died. And I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. I remember more now, but I'm like, it's been too long. But Walking Dead's good. It's all black and white, which I thought was interesting when I first started reading it, and I didn't know that. It's all black and white.
That's pretty neat.
Moving on to TV and film, we got a trailer for The Joker 2, Folie à Deux. We got I enjoyed the first one, and I'm excited for this one. Some people didn't like the first one because it was very similar to another movie that I can't remember the name of, starring dang, his name was just in my head, but I forgot it immediately. But yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix?
No, there's another movie that it was similar to, starring someone else.
Got you.
Dang, I can see his face, but I can't remember his name. He was actually in the movie. Hold on, let me look it up. The cast for Joker, because I was like, the movie that it was based off of, Robert De Niro. Was it Taxi Driver? It might have been Taxi Driver. Yeah, I think it was Taxi Driver. It was like heavily inspired by Taxi Driver, and people like it's kind of a ripoff. And I've never seen Taxi Driver to really compare, so to me, I just liked it. But I guess the people who probably saw that was probably like, this is just a ripoff of Taxi Driver.
Real.
But I liked it. That was fun. This one is apparently going to be a musical, and
I heard
Lady Gaga is playing Harley Quinn. But this trailer doesn't really give that away because I think we might have had a conversation about it before. But for some reason, movies hide the fact that they're musicals in their trailers nowadays.
Right.
Because I guess people just don't like musicals.
Yeah.
I don't hate music. I used to not like musicals, but now I'm okay with musicals. I'm not really like running to the movie theater to watch a musical, but that's maybe
they're okay.
That's probably exactly.
I'll watch them.
That's probably exactly if I'm watching a show and there's a musical episode, that's fun. But the entire thing being a musical, if it's not a Disney movie, you can get out of here. Those are the only musicals I watch. Okay, you give me Aladdin, give me Hercules, I'm in there. But otherwise, I'm out. I don't know if we talk about it, but I really, as much as I think making live action versions of the Disney movies is weird, I low key I'm really excited for that live action Hercules movie.
Real, I feel like it'll be good.
I do too. It can be really good because Hercules is probably tied for my favorite Disney movie beside Aladdin. I really like Hercules. So when I heard they was making live action, I was like, it could be fire. Because Hercules is a movie, it's good, but it's not great. And but I still like it a lot. And it has a lot of really good music. And there are definitely some things that could be changed to just make it great. So yeah. Did that ever get one of those weird sequels that was like direct to VHS?
Hercules? I think it did actually. What's it called? I have no clue, but
it might have had a show at some point because a lot of like the 90s like Disney Renaissance movies randomly got a show that ran like at least a season. But yeah, Fallout. I watched all of it. I binged it. It was so good. This is easily the second best video game adaptation of all time. Only second Arcane, which is a tough bar to top. Arcane is too good.
Yeah.
And Ella Purnell has managed to play a main character in both of them. She's Lucy in this, and she's Jinx in Arcane.
Wow.
Yeah, she's just manages to be in two of the best video game adaptations ever. Why she be in the second season of The Last of Us? But yeah, this is the future of video game adaptations. I'm excited. I want so much more.
Good. I'm glad.
They're much better off as shows than anything else. The world of Fallout is basically like a radiated Western. So it was right up my alley from the get-go.
Of course.
Unfortunately, the games don't look quite my speed.
Yeah.
But this like post-apocalyptic like nuclear war setting, plus like a gameplay similar to Cyberpunk. Now that would be fire. I would like that. I would like that a lot. Yeah, no, this is just what happens when you tell a good story that remains faithful to the source material. But it's also a situation where this is what I want from most video game adaptations, not all of them, but most of them, where you adapt a video game where you can tell a story in the world without having to retread the story from the games. Because there isn't really much of a strict narrative in the Fallout games. So it's easy to just tell stories within that world without having to follow something specific, a specific storyline. And that's what probably made it possible for them to make this show so good. But according to Inverse.com, the producer of the show fell in love with Fallout universe when he played Fallout 3 with his wife. And as Peter Ovo on Twitter says, Fallout is what you get when the people making the show love the game. But that alone isn't enough. Because from what I understand, the people who made the most recent Resident Evil movie also love the games. But that movie wasn't very good. The producer in question is Jonathan Nolan, brother of Christopher Nolan, who worked on a lot of the films that his brother also worked on, but also some popular projects of his own, alongside his wife, Lisa Joy, like Westworld. So it's a combination of love and respect for the thing you're adapting, and the skill and creative genius to, tell an incredible story that that makes the perfect adaptation. Which sounds obvious, but unfortunately, it's not to Hollywood. What's the point of adapting something if you're just going to change everything about it? The unfortunately obvious reason is because established IPs are more guaranteed to bring in money. So they much rather take an IP and or someone will send them a script for an original story and they go, this sounds similar to this thing, but not the exact same. So we're just going to slap that IP on it so that it actually makes money. And then people hate it. So, and I don't understand how they haven't learned their lesson from this. It's like with that Velma show. I honestly think some people like it, most people hate it. But honestly, it's very much, you can, watching that show, you can tell, oh, this wasn't supposed to be a Velma show. This was supposed to be its own thing. And then Mindy Kaling went and showed it to whoever. And they said, you know what, we can make this, but it has to be Scooby-Doo.
Some sort of IP. And it's like, ugh.
And that show probably would have done a lot better if, well, I think it got a season 2, so I guess it did all right. But it probably would have done even better if it was wasn't attached to something that people liked and was expecting something very specific from. Like we talked about before, the idea of an adult Scooby-Doo isn't bad. It's just that adult Scooby-Doo doesn't need to equal violence, sex, drugs.
Right. It could be something better.
It could be like the movies. The movies are very much adult movies.
I love the Scooby-Doo movies. They're so fun.
There's so many adult jokes and themes in that movie, but it's still like Scooby-Doo.
Right.
But I feel like so many stories that would potentially be good if they were their own thing, like we just mentioned with Velma, end up being bad in comparison to what they were adapting. Like, the big example for me is the live action Cowboy Bebop. I like that show as its own thing. I think if you sit down and watch that show and forget that it's supposed to be Cowboy Bebop, you will really enjoy that show. And I think if that show was released as its own thing from the get-go, people would have really liked that show.
Yeah.
But it's Cowboy Bebop. And even though some of the actors played the role, like the dude who plays Jet is so good. He's the perfect Jet. The guy that plays Spike is a decent Spike. The woman who plays Faye she's all right. And we barely got Ed, and people hated on them despite the fact that the reality was they weren't even bad. Because that is just who Ed is. I don't know if people just haven't watched the show in a while. That's Ed. Probably not. I don't know what to tell you. I watch that show all the time. It's my second favorite anime, just by Bleach. So it's like, no, that's what Ed behaves like. It's just that now they're not a cartoon character. So I guess people find it a little bit annoying. And also, I don't know, maybe it's just a bunch of people being weird because they're non-binary. But
probably a mix of both, unfortunately.
A lot of people are asking if video game movies are the next comic book movies, and I take offense to that question. Because it shows a lack of respect for both mediums on several levels. And I'm not going to lie, your response is part of the problem, okay? So
it's me. I'm the problem.
These things don't exist just to be adapted. They're perfectly fine in their original form. But also, video games wouldn't have the huge connected universe like comics, at least most of them. And I assume that's part of the problem you would have. Because, for example, a lot of people don't want a Smash Bros. Movie because they're afraid that Nintendo will create a connected universe to make it happen. But like me, you've talked about 1,000 times before, they're not going to do that. Why would Nintendo do that?
Yeah.
The explanation for the crossover will likely be just like in the games where it's either going to be the hands or literally Masahiro Sakurai and Shigeru Miyamoto playing with amiibos. And that's like at the end of the Lego movie when it's revealed that it was just like a kid playing with Legos with his dad, right?
Right.
It's probably going to be just like that. On the other hand, I do get what they mean because I do want more good video game adaptations and for them to take off. But hopefully not fall like Marvel did. And I think them not being connected universe will prevent that because Marvel kind of just started making the same movies over and over again because they found a formula that works.
That's my fear when it comes to like.
I don't think you could do that with video game movies because there aren't really a lot of connected universe in video games. There just aren't.
That's true.
So you have to make them individual films. They have to be different and they have to be representative of the franchise that they're coming from. They can't all be the same thing. So They have no choice
Right.
but to be unique with every film. They can't have them all be the same. And like I said, they're much better at shows than anything else, like Fallout, like Arcane, like Castlevania. I'm looking at you, Metal Gear. I need that to be a show. Please, for the love of God, don't make it a movie. The movie might still be good, but they're going to cut stuff out. I want to see Snake fight every single one of those bosses. Every single one of them. And if you make it a movie, it either will have to be unnecessarily long, maybe split into two, or you're going to have to cut stuff out. And I don't want that. I want every single piece of Shadow Moses in that game, okay? I mean, but yeah, Fallout was great.
Good.
You should definitely check it out.
I just might. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. Which before we move on, actually, there will also be they're making a God of War movie for show for Amazon Prime, and it's gonna focus more on the most recent games. I hope it's good. But Uncharted was bad. It was bad is a strong word. It was.
It could have been better.
It was worse than bad because it was mediocre.
Right.
And it could have been better. It's just that Tom Holland was the wrong person for the role. It was a situation where they just chose someone popular to play the character, when really, if I'm being honest, it should have been a no-name. It should have been a person who's not famous but can be Nathan Drake. Tom Holland was just every character I've ever seen him play, which is only Spider-Man. So he was just Spider-Man. And Mark Wahlberg was just Mark Wahlberg. He was just himself.
Oh.
He wasn't Sully. He was just himself, and the timeline was weird. The set pieces were dope. I was like, oh, this is cool. This would be cool if it was a game. But like, yeah, it was aggressively okay. What was I gonna say? God of War, right? So they're gonna focus more on the new ones. If they're gonna do that, I need a bunch of really long flashbacks to the old games, though. I need that in my life.
Yeah.
I also need T.C. Carson to make some type of cameo. He's the original voice of Kratos. I need him to make a cameo. He also was one of the main characters in Living Single.
Interesting.
It was just random. Because I remember when I found out that it was him voicing Kratos, I was like, I see that face, and I don't think of Kratos' voice coming out of him. He also was the voice actor for Mace Windu in the Clone Wars cartoon.
Oh, that makes sense. So that makes more sense than him being in Living Single.
Oh,
yeah.
If you look up Living Single, he's like the main black dude, like the main guy.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like if you look up T.C. Carson, you'll see him and be like, that is the dude from Living Single.
Hold on. What's his name?
T.C. Carson.
Oh my God, that is the guy from Living Single.
Just imagine that man in the booth throwing the Kratos voice in the first 6 games where he's angry as hell.
That is insane to me.
But yeah,
I'm never gonna be able to watch Living Single the same way.
It's gonna be imagining Kratos the whole time.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna watch Living Single eventually. I'm watching Friends. Friends is long as hell. Was it 10 seasons? I want to finish Friends first, but I think it's just gonna take me so long that I'm just gonna have to start watching Living Single while I'm also watching Friends, because Living Single is significantly shorter, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a good show though.
Yeah. So yesterday I went to go see Monkey Man with former co-host Amir, and it was great. It was a good time. I haven't seen Amir. Well, I saw him at like a kinda school reunion, like class reunion. It was a very weird reunion because it was like just an alumni event. So anybody who graduated from BDS, and
right. Was it the cafe thing?
Could you say that again?
I heard there was like they were having like a cafe thing or something like that.
That's a coffee house. I always miss it. I always want to go, but I always just somehow miss it. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's always in the spring, but for some reason I always forget and always miss it, and I always want to go to it, but I'll figure it out next time. But yeah, no, it was just an alumni event for the alumni only. It wasn't great. And it's like they were trying to get people in like the alumni committee. I was like, put me on that committee. I can do better than this. This was trash. I'm not even a big party person, but I can do better than this. It was horrible. They tried to do this weird bingo game. Anyway, sidetrack. Monkey Man.
put me on the committee is insane, by the way.
It was your classic like poverty-driven revenge tale where like the rich treat the poor like trash, and Dave Patel's character, his mother is killed unjustly by the police, and he seeks revenge. The action is great, but not as bountiful as you would think, or the trailers would make you think. There's two really big action scenes, with a few smaller ones because he's like like an underground ring fighter occasionally, but that's not like a huge part of the story. Well, it kind of. No, it's not like the biggest part of the story, but it is important to the story. And we see a couple of those fights towards the beginning, but then in the middle, there's this huge like fight in this building, and then he goes and he trains and he comes back, and then there's the big fight at the end. So it's not as much action, but there is some really really good action scenes. Yeah, it was a great directorial debut for Dev, and I'm interested to see what he does next. For some reason, I put "I'm" in all caps, and it just looks strange. Like I just yelled "I'm" when I was.
You're really excited.
It was a great directorial debut for Dev, and I'm excited to see what he does next. No, but yeah, it was a fun movie. You definitely suggest checking out, supporting the homie Dev Patel.
Nice.
Moving on to video games. There was a little trailer for a Fortnite and Avatar crossover. And we say it every time. Did you watch it? Because every time Fortnite does something like this, I'm like, this is just its own game. This is just like proof of concept for how good like a multiplayer Avatar game could be. And now I need it. I need an Avatar game so bad. We don't have any good Avatar games, and it's really unfortunate. Bad. Nick, what are you doing? Get somebody to make a good Avatar game. But I sent you a trailer for this game called Spine. I randomly came across a gameplay trailer for like it's a close quarters action game with like gun fu, and it just looks fun. It looks kind of like not necessarily like Sifu, but it reminds me of Sifu, but with guns. Excuse me. I saw this game called Raw Metal. Infiltrate the depths of an exoplanet mining facility to scavenge for gear and challenge a corrupt mega corporation. Utilize gadgets and equipment and high stakes stealth and hone your fighting skills in breakneck combat in the stylish stealth action dungeon crawler.
That seems really cool.
It has some big name voice actors in it, like Steve Bloom and some other people in it. It was so surprising to just hear his voice in this indie ass game. I was like, what? This is random as hell.
Right.
There just aren't
like how he's in Being Puppy Cat. It's so strange.
Yeah, there just aren't enough stealth action games out there. It just isn't. We haven't had a stealth action game like Metal Gear in 10 years. That game came out in 2015, Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oof.
And the closest we had was The Last of Us Part 2, whose gameplay is underrated and overshadowed by the discourse surrounding the story. The gameplay in that game is so good. And I'd love to see Naughty Dog make a stealth-focused game. That would be fun. But like, yeah, it looks cool. It has an interesting art style, and I just like stealth games. So I said this to you right before the podcast. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but V Rising is having a crossover with Castlevania.
I had heard about it.
It's the isometric vampire survival game. And if you just click on it, like muted and like skip to the middle, there's like a fight between, you can play as Alucard, or like you can like you can create a character, and I think you can like get Alucard's clothes or something, and maybe like build the Castlevania or something like that. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even watch the full trailer. I just saw it and I was like, I'm sending this to you because it was like 30 minutes ago. So I was like furiously trying to finish my notes before we started recording.
Right.
And I threw this in last minute. So I got to rewatch it myself. But there was just this boss fight between you as the vampire, because it's a vampire survival game, an isometric game. And so you fight vampire hunters, and Simon Belmont comes in, his theme starts playing, and they're fighting, and it looks cool as hell. It's a little boss fight. And I'm like, first Dead Cells, now this. They'll give us everything but a new game.
Castlevania game. Listen.
You think with the popularity of the shows that they would think now's a good time to make a new game. But no.
Like a crumb of something. Please, Konami.
And like this game makes me want an isometric Castlevania game so bad. Because it looks so good. And as I'm seeing the boss fight, I'm like, hold on. This would be dope. An isometric Metroidvania would be incredible. Oh my God. I'm upset now. What are you doing, Konami?
It's tragic.
at the very least, like remake some of them. If you're not
Yeah.
gonna make a new one, remake Symphony of the Night.
That's where I'm listen.
But
Preaching to the choir.
speaking of which, the Rogue Prince of Persia is developed by Evil Empire, who worked on the on Dead Cells DLC, including Return to Castlevania.
Ooh.
Yeah, this game looks real fun. It looks even more up my alley than Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown. I really like the art style. It's apparently based off of some French artists, or like this very specific kind of like French art style, because I mean, it's made by Ubisoft, and that's a French development studio or company. And the music is really good as well. It just looks like a really good, just side-scrolling action platformer. Because platforming is just key to the Prince of Persia franchise in general. So yeah, it looks fun. It goes in early access. I'm not sure if it comes out this year. It would be wild to release Prince of Persia games in the same year. I wish they would release 2 Castlevania games the same year.
Right.
But I mean, if Prince of Persia can come back, Castlevania can come back. But speaking of Prince of Persia come back, the Sands of Time remake that was announced, I should have sent you the trailer for that original remake. It looked bad. And the remake is being remade. They're restarting development. Because it looked bad. It looked more like a remaster than a remake. Because I'm playing the original and I'm like, it didn't look good. So Yuri Lowenthal voiced the prince in the original game, and he was set to reprise his role. But if you didn't know this, he's white, and the prince, of course, is Persian.
Right.
So they're getting a different voice actor.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm glad this is happening, or it's still happening. I thought they'd cancel it after it had a bunch of problems recently, but they're gonna go with a different art direction, thankfully, because it was. I need you to look at it.
Yeah.
It looks strange. It looks like a remaster. It really looks like you remember those really bad GTA remasters that came out last year?
Oof. Yes, I do.
It looks like the Prince of Persia equivalent of that. It did not look
ew.
good. So hopefully they do better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just want, if this remake does well, hopefully we get more Prince of Persia, because after Assassin's Creed essentially was like a spiritual successor to Prince of Persia, and then it just completely replaced it, and that sucked. So yeah. Speaking of which, unfortunately, another remake that we thought would revitalize the franchise, Dead Space 2, was shelved. Due to lackluster sales numbers, the Dead Space 2 remake was shelved, and lackluster sales numbers of the first remake, of course.
Right.
And his dev team, Motive, was moved on to fucking Battlefield. Nobody plays Battlefield. No one cares.
Nobody.
You lost the first-person shooter war. Okay, just give it a break. You don't got to stop. But I don't think putting more people on the game is the solution.
Yeah.
I don't think taking devs from working on other games is the solution. So Motive is also working on. So we weren't going to see a Dead Space 2 remake for a while anyway, because Motive is also working on an Iron Man game, which I'm kind of excited for. Motive was the studio that made Anthem, that game that didn't do very well, but had really cool flying mechanics and armor. So I think they can make a really good Iron Man game, especially since Dead Space 2 was great. So the studio has talent. There was just a lot of things holding back Anthem. It was just a little overambitious. But yeah, I'm excited for Iron Man. I've been wanting an open world Iron Man game for so long.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to play as Iron Man flying around New York? That sounds fun as hell.
Exactly.
Well, maybe I don't think it should take place in New York, because we have too many superhero games that take place in New York. It should take place in LA or
Detroit. No, I'm kidding.
a Cyborg game in Detroit, because Cyborg's from Detroit. That would actually be kind of fun. A Teen Titans game.
You can't have shit there. I mean, it would be on brand.
But yeah, this is upsetting. I'm upset. I'm so upset. I've loved that Dead Space remake so much. I can't believe this. Hopefully at some point it comes back. Eternal Strands. Fight epic towering creatures while blading magical abilities with an arsenal of powerful weapons to keep the world from crumbling in this third-person action adventure game. So this is the game I sent you, where it's kind of like a combination of Shadow of the Colossus and Breath of the Wild. It looks very interesting. For some reason, I guess I spelled Colossus wrong, and it autocorrected to college. It says Shadow of the College. But this is the first game from Yellow Brick Games, a studio of people who worked on Dragon Age and Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Ooh.
So the giants you fight in this game will apparently wander the entirety of the map. And where and when you fight them will be an important choice since the terrain and the weather can either impede them or buff them. So it's very.
It sounds neat.
Yeah, it looks cool and interesting. We have a gameplay reveal for Windblown, which we got an animated trailer for. I think it was at the Game Awards. And this is the newest game from the Did Cell devs, Motion Twins. It's an isometric action roguelike that can be played with up to 3 players. And I would love if Hades had multiplayer. Imagine if, I don't know, the second one probably won't. Maybe it will, who knows. But if they make a third one, if you could play as both Zagreus and his sister, that would be dope. That would be fun.
It would be really dope.
That would be really cool. But yeah, it goes in early access sometime this year. It looks interesting. Star Wars Outlaws had a story trailer, and it looks okay. I'm not super excited for this game, to be honest, especially since we've barely seen anything about it, and it's releasing in August, apparently. I don't know. Nothing about this game looks interesting to me. It's I don't know. It looks like at least interesting version of the game that they were going to make a while back. That was codenamed 1313. That was going to take place on Coruscant in the underground section, and it was by Amy Hennig, who's currently making that Black Panther Captain America game. And was going to kind of be like a Star Wars Uncharted game. And this looks to me like a worse version of that, honestly. I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. It just doesn't look interesting to me personally.
Yeah.
Last but not least for me is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. A little quick update on my journey. I took a 1.5 week long break and played Metal Gear Solid 5 and God of War 1 because Gongaga and Cosmo Canyon destroyed me. I've never seen level design drop off so hard in my life. They went from 3 amazing open world sections to 2 of the worst I've ever explored because they tried to turn it into a puzzle. If this game was like a Metroidvania or Souls-like, which are basically 3D Metroidvanias, it wouldn't matter because that's part of the DNA of those map styles. But it went from flat plains to tons of elevation and hidden paths, and it was all very confusing, and I had to look things up several times to find out where I need to go to do this side quest or whatever. And now I see what the big flaw that a lot of reviewers were like alluding to in their spoiler-free reviews that I watched a while back. The game's great. Ultimately, I'm going to end the game. I'm back to a point where I'm enjoying it again. It was just Gongaga was annoying. Honestly, Cosmo Canyon isn't nearly as bad as Gongaga. I enjoyed my time in Cosmo Canyon. Gongaga just it drained the life out of me.
Real.
But yeah, it's a good game. Ultimately, I'm gonna finish the game and be like, this is one of the best JRPGs I've ever played. But do better. Another problem that I ran into that I actually saw a tweet about yesterday was materia, right? You can equip a bunch of materia, and once you get to a certain point in the game, like I am, which is late game, you have like 6 materia slots on your weapons and 6 materia slots on your person, so you can have up to 12 materia on you at all times. And you often find yourself like swapping things around between characters, and sometimes you lose track of everything and like who had what, and then it's not until you're fighting and you realize, oh, this character doesn't have this vital thing that I need for this fight.
Right.
And they need to have loadouts. They need material loadouts. They need material loadouts desperately, so that I can just switch between loadouts with my characters instead of having to try and puzzle piece who had what and what they need for certain situations. I can just switch them out. That's the thing that a lot of people have been like, please give us this. So hopefully they'll add that to the third game. Yeah, I'm excited to see what the end is like because I'm approaching it. By next episode, I'll probably be finished. So
nice.
Yeah, and then I'll hop back into Persona 3 and see if I can finish it because that game's long as hell.
Definitely the game of all time, like
because that's how long it'll take.
Yeah.
But that's all I got. If you don't have anything.
Nope, nothing to report here.
Okay. Well, you can find my ads below me. Aiara's at below them. The Musket's at below that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more storytelling content, and to click notification posts so that you're notified when we post. Peace.
See ya.